So the Inter-Island Traveling Exhibition, or the ITE, as we like to call it, it started as a joint effort between myself and the then education officer, Abby Smith, and very graciously supported by Director Amanda Colson and our then Chief Curator, Holly Bino. The ITE has been devised as a way for us to ensure that we include the family islands when we're having national conversations about art. And you can't know what's going on culturally if you don't get to see your cultural patrimony. So the ITE is a way for us to take the national collection to the nation.
So the ITE has visited Grand Bahama, Abaco, Eleuthera, Andros, Exuma, and Long Island. And some of those islands we've been to more than once. So we usually make 2 trips a year, one earlier in the year and one later in the year. And the pandemic has shifted that slightly, which meant that we haven't been able to do this in person. So the most recent in-person Inter-Island Traveling Exhibition was in Eleuthera, and that was almost a year ago. That was last year, March. So whenever we travel for the ITE, the curatorial and education teams hit the ground running, and it's an intense week of programming. We have school visits where we visit the schools and teach them about the museum and different career paths in the arts. We have the student workshops where we introduce students to some Bahamian artists, and then we do an art activity with them. We have the exhibition opening, which is sort of the culmination of the long week of activities and an opportunity for the community to come in and to see the exhibition that the curatorial team has installed. We also have student workshops where we introduce students to a new artistic technique and introduce them also to some Bahamian artists. We also have some version of a talk, whether that's a curator's talk, an artist talk, a talk with environmentalists, basically a talk to involve the community, engage the community, because they're the ones who have stake in the island and that's their home. And at the end of the week is when we have our community workshop, which is when we get to unwind a little bit, have some fun with the community. This is where we get to spend some more time with them, get to know them, and end everything on a high note and just have some fun.
The ITE is a team endeavor, and everyone here pitches in to make sure it's a success twice a year, the importance of which cannot be overstated. The ITE impacts hundreds of students and adults across the family islands, where they engage with the arts in tangible and impactful ways, viewing our national collection and creating works of art themselves. The goal of the ITE overall is always engagement. We want as many persons as possible to engage with the national collection, your national collection, learn about the works, and have open discussions about them with their fellow community members.
This third iteration of the ITE, entitled From Time, Water Has a Perfect Memory, was conceived as a way for us to try and really deal with the context that we're operating out of in the Caribbean, as a space that, you know, is on the front lines of climate change, feeling very fragile and vulnerable, and trying to really imagine a way to chart a future forward together. It looks at themes around history and how our history can inform our continued survival, as well as ideas around sustainability and looking towards the future. Artists included in this exhibition are Dion Benjamin Smith, Jolyon Smith, John Paul Saddleton, Jacob Frank Coonley, who is a colonial photographer, and a lot of other gems in the national collection.
Ever since the pandemic happened, we had to shift our programming for the ITE virtually, and we had our first virtual ITE for the island of Abaco back in November of 2020. And basically it's the same event, but in a virtual format. There was a virtual opening, there were student workshops, a virtual tour of the exhibitions, and finally we had a curator's talk which involved artists, creatives, community activists, and of course the curators of the show.
And as we hope the ITE moves back to its physical format in the near future, we would like to hear from you. Do you want us on your island? How can we engage you better? What else would you like to know?